A man took God to court in Lagos. Can a man sue God? You are not alone in the question. But Jude did. The first day the case between Jude Okonkwo and God was mentioned in court, there was a roar of laughter. Some called Jude and his lawyer mad, some called him frustrated. But as the case went on, the court was filled with journalists who wanted to hear how the case would go. Jude Okonkwo was not a churchgoer. He wasn't anti-God either, just indifferent. A 50-year-old civil engineer in Nigeria, Jude believed in hard work, not miracles. That was until one hot Tuesday evening, stuck in traffic along Allen Avenue, Lagos, a young woman handed him a flyer through his car window. The bold print screamed, "Miracle Month. So bountifully. Receive 10 times your seed in 21 days. Below the promise was a photo of Prophet Edwin, founder of Divine Stone Covenant Center. Dressed in a white suit and red tie, the pastor wore a confident smile beside the caption, "God sent me to tell you, your 21-day financial turnaround begins with your seed." Jude stared at it. The maths was simple. Give 2 million, get 20. In 3 weeks. That was better than any investment he'd ever heard of. As someone struggling with debt and delayed salary payments, this felt like an open door. For the first time in years, Jude walked into a church that Sunday. He sat at the back, quiet, watching. But what he heard convinced him to try. "Some of you are sitting on your breakthrough because your seed is still in your account," the prophet shouted. "God said to tell you, sow bountifully and watch me move within 21 days. Not 40. Not 60. 21. 2 women and 2 men went out to give testimonies. They sowed the last time the 21 days door opened and made 10 times their money. The last man said he just returned from the United States. The pastor shouted, "So you sowed in the US dollars," and the man said yes. Members clapped and shouted praise the Lord. Jude's heart beat fast. He transferred 2 million naira that same day. His savings. Everything. Day 1 passed. Then 10. Then 21. Nothing. He waited another week. Then another. Still nothing. Jude returned to the church office with his transfer receipt. The secretary smiled politely. "God's timing is not our timing, sir." He asked to speak to the pastor. He waited 3 hours. When Prophet Edwin finally came out, he barely stopped walking. "Sir," Jude called. "I sowed as instructed. It's been 30 days. Nothing happened." Prophet Edwin glanced at him. "Faith activates the seed. Did you believe when you gave?" "Of course I believed. I even recorded your message. You said 21 days. Faith without works is dead. Maybe your heart wasn't aligned." But the flyer said, "Who doesn't understand how the things of God work?" Pastor Jude cut in. "I don't. That's why I asked. In business, if there's a return date, it means there's an obligation." The pastor waved him off. "This is not business. It's spiritual." Then came the Sunday service that broke Jude's silence forever. From the pulpit, Prophet Edwin boomed. "Someone stopped me on my way to an important mission and complained that he hadn't received God's promised reward after sowing for the 21-day miracle. I told him, maybe his faith wasn't in alignment with his seed. But he didn't accept that. People just don't understand the things of God. If you sowed and haven't been blessed yet, maybe you should take God to court." The congregation erupted in laughter. Someone shouted, "Can a man question God?" Prophet Edwin laughed louder and quoted Romans 9 verse 20. "But who are you, a human being, to talk back to God? Shall what is formed say to the one who formed it, 'Why did you make me like this?'" The laughter grew. People clapped, nodded, shouted, "Never." But Jude didn't laugh. His chest tightened. His face burned with quiet embarrassment. That moment pierced him, not just as a man who lost money, but as someone being publicly mocked for believing. That mockery didn't sit well with him. No, Jude thought. This isn't spiritual. This is marketing. Promising something tangible, within a measurable time frame, in exchange for something equally tangible, money? That wasn't faith. That was commerce. So Jude decided to do exactly what Prophet Edwin had joked about. Take God to court. But the defendants wouldn't be heaven. They would be the agent who brought the business that failed, Divine Covenant Center, and Prophet Edwin, the man who claimed to speak for God. Jude consulted a lawyer, Kami Lawler Davies, an astute legal mind with many years of courtroom experience. After reviewing the evidence, Kami looked up and said, "This is a good case. People take agreements for granted in this country, especially when they're dressed in religion." Then came the headlines after the first hearing. Man sues God over failed miracle return. Engineer takes church to court over unfulfilled prophecy. Civil engineer demands refund for failed miracle. The story exploded across newspapers, blogs, and primetime TV. Barrister Kami Lawler Davies came prepared. In court, she calmly submitted the flyer as Exhibit A, the very one that promised financial turnaround in 21 days. Then she played voice recordings from Prophet Edwin's sermons. "If you sow today, 21 days from now, your finances will explode. I stand as God's oracle to tell you, God does not fail in his promises." Murmurs filled the courtroom. The church's lawyer argued that spiritual matters were not subject to court interpretation. God cannot be summoned to testify, he said. But Kami stood firm. "Since we cannot sue God, we are suing his agent, the man who said God made him promise a specific financial return within a specified period in exchange for money." The court hummed. The judge banged his gavel 3 times. Barrister Kami held up the flyer. "Your Honor, this is not just spiritual language. This is a clear, time-bound business transaction. Sow bountifully and receive 10 times your seed in 21 days. She took a step closer. "Your Honor, imagine this is a flyer from the Lagos State Ministry of Commerce saying, invest 2 million, get 20 million in 21 days, with the picture of the commissioner, or even the governor." She paused, letting the courtroom breathe in the scenario. If that promise fails, can the commissioner say, "Well, the government works in mysterious ways"? The timing is not the same as ours. No. The ministry would be liable. And so would the commissioner or official who endorsed it. Kami raised the flyer again. "So why is it different when the promise is made in God's name, from a pulpit, by a man who claims to be his mouthpiece?" She turned to the church's lawyer. "We are not suing heaven. We are holding the self-proclaimed agent accountable for making commercial promises and collecting funds, just like any government or business would be." The courtroom was silent. Even the judge leaned forward. She dropped the final blow. "If God had made the promise directly, we would have held him accountable directly. This promise came from a man. We hold the man responsible." The judge read out everyone's submission and they accepted before he adjourned the case for 1 month. The verdict. Judge Ismaila Nano sat back, voice rising just enough to cut the silence. "This court will not allow the name of God to be used as a shield for commercial deception." Gavel strike. After reviewing multiple pieces of evidence, including the church's televised broadcasts and printed flyers, he continued. "This court orders Prophet Edwin and Divine Covenant Center to pay Mr. Jude Okonkwo the agreed 20 million naira, plus 10% interest within 30 days. An additional 500,000 naira is awarded for emotional and financial distress." Bang. Case closed. Jude lifted both hands, praising God. Prophet Edwin sank into his seat, hands on his head, mouth wide open. He never imagined it would end like this. The story went viral. Some called Jude bold. Others accused him of blasphemy. But Jude wasn't fighting God. He was fighting the misuse of God's name for profit. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed him. He simply said, "If the pastor had just said, 'Give and trust God,' I wouldn't sue." But he gave a promise. A deadline. That's not worship. That's business. And when business fails, there are refunds. So, Jude never sued heaven. He sued the man who claimed to speak for God. And stamped a promise and deadline on his name. And this time, the judge didn't need faith. Just facts, to deliver justice. Prophet Edwin's lawyer, he quietly told reporters. "We accept the judgment. But we will appeal, for moral clarity." He refused further interviews. Thanks for watching. This story isn't just about courtrooms and controversy. It's about the thin line between faith and fraud, and the cost of using God's name to run a business. Who do you think was wrong? Faith that failed, or the man who made the promise? Tell us in the comments.